Ram Krishna Hari. We offer our namaskars at the feet of Lord Vitthal and all the Varkari saints. In this section of Sant Muktabai Charitra, we are going to speak of the glories of a disciple rather than the Guru herself. But before we begin with it, let's take a little peep into the background of this disciple. The story goes that once Lord Indra had assigned a certain work to Marudgan. Marudgan was born to sage Kashyap and Diti. Somehow Marudgan had forgotten about this assignment, and this angered Indra so much that he cursed Marudgan to be born on earth as a human being and suffer the same pangs that human beings do. Marudgan was very fearful of this curse. He pleaded with Indra to forgive him. Indra eased out the curse. He took pity on Marudgan, eased out the curse, and he said that in spite of him being born on earth as a human being, he would have a very glorious life and he would be the disciple to two main gurus who were incarnations of Lord Vishnu and Lord Vishnu's sister Yogamaya. This Marudgan was none other than Yogi Tsangdev. As a young child, Tsangdev had mastered all the scriptures, the 6 Shastras, the 4 Vedas, the 18 Puranas. He had also mastered many occult sciences. He had control over animals, over natural elements. He had control over ghosts, spirits, ghouls, but of course, he never used it for any selfish means. He saw to it that people benefited from his knowledge. Many people became his disciples, some householders, some spiritual seekers. In a very short time, he had gathered about 2,000 odd disciples. He had become a Siddha yogi and his fame spread far and wide. He was known all over the country, the Bharatvarsh, and especially so in Varanasi too. Once, when he was sitting in deep samadhi at the confluence of the rivers Purna and Tapi, it occurred to him in his vision, in a divine vision, that he should establish a mutt or an ashram there. He had evaded Kal or death. The story goes that every 100 years, death would come to take him away, but he would go into a samadhi and send his prana shakti, that is his life energy, into the cosmos. Death would come and return back unsuccessful. In this way, Tsangdev is said to have evaded death for 1400 years. It so happened once that when he was in deep samadhi, he was not aware of what was happening around him, and his samadhi period would go on for 6 to 8 months. At that time, if you remember in one of our episodes, we had said that Muktai, along with her 3 brothers, was passing to this particular place when they were returning from Paithan, and she saw many dead bodies on the way. And on asking, she was told about a particular yogi sitting in samadhi who would open his eyes, and wherever he would cast his eyes, all those places would be alive, all those people would be alive, all the organisms which were dead there, be they plants, animals, human beings, they all would come back to life, and there would be only happiness all around, is what people believed about Yogi Tsangdev. This we have seen in one of our earlier episodes of Sant Muktabai Charitra itself. Yogi Tsangdev, when he came out of his samadhi, he heard some people talking about this particular saint, Muktai. He also heard people talking about how Mauli had made the buffalo recite the Rigved. Calling a few of his close confidants, he asked them whether what he heard was true. People said yes, and even got eyewitnesses to prove their point. Tsangdev, being a knowledgeable soul that he was, realized that these were not ordinary children, but they were some divine incarnations. He sent for one of his disciples and said, "You have to carry a particular letter which will be written on the palm leaf. Please take this palm leaf message and give it to the 4 brethren." This disciple was only too eager to do so. So Yogi Tsangdev started to write on the palm leaf, but there was a little confusion in his mind. He didn't realize whether he should address them as someone who was senior and elder to him in achievement, because they were supposed to be age-wise much younger than him. He also was not sure whether he should address them as children, because he knew that they were some very divine incarnations who had very great or heightened spiritual elevations. Being thus confused, he asked this disciple, who was very close to him, "Ki I am first time in my life, I am in a confusion as to how to address these brethren. Forget writing the matter of the letter or the message." The disciple humbly bowed to him and said, "Guruji, it's better you leave it blank. I'll carry the blank palm leaf and hand it over to the 4 brethren." Yogi Tsangdev was only too happy to do that, because he felt that was the apt thing to do, and that was the way in which he could truly respect these 4 Bala Yogis. The disciple took the empty or the blank palm leaf, went to Arandi and searched about for Muktai and her brothers. He asked one of the children playing over there, "Do you know where Nivruttinath, Nyandev, Sopan and Muktai are?" The small girl who was playing turned back at him and sharply retorted, "Do you even know what you are talking about? They are not some ordinary children. They are divine. So see to it that you speak about them with respect." This disciple was taken aback, and he realized that if a small child could give such a type of retort, one could easily imagine what level of enlightenment these brethren must be in. Slowly finding his way, he came to the place where these 4 were blissfully in their divine play. The moment Muktai saw him, she told her elder brother, Nivruttinath Maharaj. She said, "Dada, this man has come from Yogi Tsangdev. He's got some message for us." The disciple was again taken aback, because he realized this small girl, who was then just 14 years old, she could read his mind without even knowing who he was. He bowed to all of them and handed over the palm leaf to Nivruttinath Maharaj. Nivruttinath opened the palm leaf and found that it was blank on both sides. He passed it on to Jnaneshwar Mauli and said, "Give a apt reply to this particular message." Jnaneshwar Mauli also turned both sides of the palm leaf, and finding nothing on it, he said, "Dada, what do I send a message back? There is nothing written on it." He then handed it over to Muktai. Muktai looked at the two sides of the blank palm leaf, and she told her brothers, "Yogi Tsangdev is as blank as this paper. In spite of having so much of knowledge, he has actually achieved nothing." So saying, she handed that palm leaf back to Nivruttinath. Nivruttinath made a philosophical mention about this particular blank palm leaf. These words are very important for all of us. Nivruttinath says, "Good that it is blank, at least something can be written on it." That means this yogi has still not got ego crept into him. Because when someone writes something, It shows he wants to tell us that he has this particular knowledge and we should be aware of his position, of his status. When there is blankness, the Guru can write something on it. So if one has to go to a Guru, he should be as blank as this palm leaf. And so it is time for Yogi Tsangdev to get a Guru. He may have attained wisdom theoretically, but practically he still has to achieve wisdom, he still has to achieve Jnana, and that Brahma Jnana, for that only this particular sequence has come in, where he sends this blank palm leaf to us and we write on it. So when a disciple approaches the Guru, he should be as blank as a paper, so that the Guru writes, and whatever the Guru writes, if the disciple follows, it is supposed to be his spiritual elevation. Saying so, he tells Jnanadev Maharaj, why don't you write some points of wisdom of Brahma Jnana to Yogi Tsangdev. Jnaneshwar Mauli writes 65 points which are very important in the spiritual literature as Tsangdev Pasashti. Pasashti means 65. So these are 65 points of advice of Brahma Jnana which Jnaneshwar Mauli gives Tsangdev. He folds the palm leaf, gives it to the disciple and tells him to hand it over to Tsangdev. When the disciple goes to Tsangdev and hands over that palm leaf, the yogi reads those 65 points, but he is still at a loss of words to understand the meaning of those points. He says, I am not able to understand even one word of this. And for this, I need a guru. So I think it's time for me to go and meet Jnaneshwar Mauli. When he suggests to his disciples that all of us need to go to Arandi to have a darshan of these 4 incarnations, some of his disciples suggest to him that you are a yogi who has done tapas for 1400 years. You have evaded death, you have got so much of knowledge, all that should not be waste. So when you go to meet these 4 at Arandi, don't go like an ordinary person, go in your own pomp and splendor. This is how people try to fill us up with that particular ego which actually is not there in us. So this is a very fine example of it. And the brain sometimes moves away from its logic reasoning and starts taking up ego into it. So the intellect becomes blunt, and that's exactly what happened with Tsangdev. He felt that his householders, disciples who were there, they were correct in suggesting to him that he should go in pomp and splendor and show off his knowledge to these 4 Bali yogis. So he sits on a tiger and he carries a snake, a very venomous snake, as a whip to show these 4 Bali yogis, that is Nivruttinath, Jnanadev, Sopan and Muktai, that he has controlled animals and even the ferocious animals are under his thumb. He tells all his disciples along with their families to come with him in a procession so that Jnaneshwar Mauli and his brothers and sisters would know the level of his Guru Parampara was. As they are approaching Arandi, one of the disciples of Tsangdev goes ahead to tell Jnaneshwar Mauli. He goes before the procession reaches Arandi, he reaches and he tells Jnanadev Maharaj that Yogi Tsangdev is coming to meet all of you. He informs him about it. Nivruttinath, who hears this, says, such a great yogi is coming to meet us. It doesn't look good that we are, whatever said and done, we are younger to him in age. So it doesn't look good that such a great yogi comes to us. We also should go to meet him. So let's walk a little bit towards him. Jnaneshwar Mauli, who is a believer in Advait, he says, what is there to go and what is there to come? We are meeting our own people. So there should be no such formality that we should approach him or he is approaching us. Muktai says, what both of you say are correct. And so she suggests something which is very miraculous. These four are sitting on a wall. So Muktai says, let's go to meet him. If he is coming on a tiger, let's go to meet him sitting on this wall. From wherever they are at Arandi, on a lifeless wall, brick wall, the wall moves from there and goes towards the direction where the procession is coming from. As they are flying above, Changdev and his disciples happen to look up and they see that the wall has four of these Bali yogis sitting on them, and he realizes that these are not ordinary incarnations. He stops his procession there. The wall also comes from the sky to the ground, and the four brethren get down from the wall. Yogi Changdev prostrates in front of them, holds their feet firmly, especially Nyandev Mauli, and he goes into a trance for a very long time. Nivruttinath Maharaj tells Dhyaneshwar Mauli, it's better that you bring him out of the trance, otherwise it's going to go on for hours together. Yogi slowly comes back to his normal self. He asks for pardon that he behaved in a certain way to show the strength of his knowledge, of his powers. And he asks Dhyaneshwar Mauli to explain the meaning of the 65 points that he has given him in that palm leaf. Mauli says the best thing that can happen to you is these 65 points can be explained to you by none other than my youngest sister, Sant Muktabai. So he says, Muktabai, from today, from this moment, Changdev is your disciple, you are his guru. You have to look upon him as your child. Now here comes a very important point. Muktabai is 14 years of age, whereas Changdev is 1400 years of age. So you can imagine the Yoga Maya or the Adi Shakti, Muktabai, how maternally she looks after Yogi Changdev, in spite of physically him being much elder to her in age. That Changdev has become a disciple of Muktabai is a news which was spread far and wide, and it reached even Kashi, Varanasi. People from all over Varanasi, Kashi, to tell you of the great saint Sant Kabir. Many other saints from all over Maharashtra, all of them started approaching Arandi, and Arandi was packed with about 3 lakh people who had heard about the glories of these four brethren. From the time in the earlier episode, as we had done, from the time that Visoba Khechar had understood the greatness of Mauli and the others, the people of Arandi, especially the poor and downtrodden people, knew that they had a ray of hope in these four yogis. Though the upper class was a little restrained in their concept or their thought or devotion towards them, most of the people of Arandi had understood that they were lucky to have such divine incarnation amidst them. Changdev added more flavor to that particular devotion, and Arandi became famous for the Bali yogis, especially Dhyaneshwar Mauli and Muktabai. It became famous for Yogi Changdev to have become a disciple of Muktabai, and Arandi's fame thus spread far and wide. Sant Muktabai offered a lot of spiritual advice and instruction to Yogi Changdev. She looked upon him as a child, and he always called her Ai. Ai is mother in Marathi. She also told him that death was inevitable and it was wrong on his part to evade death for so many years, for 1400 years. In the later part of his life, after she had given him a lot of spiritual instruction, she told him the only way you can get mukti is if you visit Pandharpur and take the darshan of Lord Vitthal, Pandurang. That will be the best thing that can happen to you. That will summarize your entire life. So, Yogi Changdev goes to Pandharpur, takes the darshan of Lord Vitthal, and after some years, he gives up his body. His samadhi is at Puntamba in Aurangabad. So, this is the second disciple that we have spoken about of Sant Muktabai. In the next episode, we shall have another disciple, a very popular Varkari saint, and how for a disciple to have that particular quality, to come towards a guru of that stature, the most important quality is to be egoless, is what we'll understand in that section. Till then, Ram Krishna Hari.